Blitz!
I'm Travis Downey, and this gentleman to my right is Adam Rosenberg, new sports writer here with Northwest Florida Daily News. And we're going to bring you a preseason edition of the Blitz, get you kind of ready for the season that gets underway in just a matter of weeks. Preseason practices start today, as a matter of fact, and before we get too deep into practices and looking forward to the 2010 season, what are some of the storylines, the themes that we're going to be keeping an eye on throughout the fall? I think the first one you have to start with is Niceville, coming off of last year's state championship game appearance. How are they going to respond this year?
Well, obviously I never saw them play, but I heard about how great of a team they were last year. And obviously, if you get to the state championship game, you have to be a talented team. Mm-hmm. Now, I know they lost two of the best players in this area, right, in Cody Williams and Roy Finch. Mm-hmm. And when you lose two D1 caliber football players like that, it's got to be hard to replace them no matter what, especially since they're skilled players. And I think a lot of people are going to write them off and say there's no way they can be as good as they were last year. So I'm interested to see if they're a program that kind of reloads every year, mm-hmm, or if this was kind of a once-in-a-decade thing where they just got lightning in a bottle. I'm interested to see if they can replace those guys. Yeah,
Niceville, typically, they've had some question marks. They've had to reload, per se, in years past. Not quite to this extent. You mentioned Roy and Cody also replacing 10 starters on a defense last year. So they have some nice pieces back, Kyle McDormand being one, under center, back at quarterback, but they do have some question marks. And to a larger extent, that's going to open up what was already expected to be a tough District 2 4A race down the wire last year. Fort Walton Beach, Crestview, they each have some question marks. They each return some nice pieces. Anxious to see how that race unfolds. Similarly, we talk about Niceville having some question marks. Walton, they return 18 and 19 seniors, big class for those guys. Liam Miller back under center. They feel really good about where they're headed this fall. And on the flip side of that, you have Freeport coming off a historic run last year. You got to see them in the spring some. What were your impressions of what they have coming back?
Well, one of my biggest impression was Nick Ellington. I can't wait to see that kid play again. Yeah. He was first of all, he's just a physically impressive guy, a big guy with speed, agility. He scored 3 touchdowns in the spring game against Graceville. Besides that, that they were playing a very young team in the spring, so it's kind of hard to gauge how good they were. But I'm just excited to see that team with Nick Ellington, because I think, just based on what I've heard and what I've seen, he might be one of the most impressive players in the area. I
think you're right with that one. And I think another thing, too, to kind of keep an eye on this year, we've got 2 programs in Baker and Rocky Bayou Christian that were unable to win a game last year. So for those programs, those coaches, and those kids, you really hope that they can kind of turn around and get some wins under their belt this year, maybe even make a run for Baker in that district. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting district race. And I think lastly, one of the key things to keep an eye on this year is Choctawhatchee. It's year 3 under Greg Thomas. Each season, they've taken a step forward. In 08, winning season. Last year, 7-4, district runner-up, their first playoff berth in a while. So they're talking district title. That's their goal. Can they come through on that? But those are just a few of the storylines that we'll be keeping a close eye on for you guys and covering in the pages of the Northwest Florida Daily News, as well as online at nwfvarsity.com. We'll see you next time.